everybody. I'm Seth Meyers. This is Late Night. We hope you're doing well. And now, if you don't mind, we're going to get to the news. President Trump said this week that companies shouldn't be forced to report earnings every quarter, or as NBC is hoping, ever? New York Governor Kathy Hochul announced last week that this was the safest summer on the subway in at least 15 years because you can't get mugged on a train that never shows up. According to a new report from the Wall Street Journal, toxic fumes are leaking into airplanes and making passengers and crews sick. Though if you're flying Spirit, they're happy to crack a window. In a new post on Truth Social, President Trump celebrated that Eric Trump's upcoming book became the #1 best-selling memoir on Amazon. So congratulations to the book's author. Congratulations are in order. Former MMA fighter Conor McGregor announced this week that he is withdrawn from the Irish presidential race after, quote, careful reflection, or as it's known in Ireland, sobering up. A Canadian man was recently arrested and charged with driving under the influence after taking a child-sized pink Barbie Jeep on a main road. In his defense, this is his other car. According to a new survey, 13% of homeowners said that their first DIY project was mounting a TV, and their second was fixing the dent the TV left in the floor. 3 nuns in Austria recently ran away from their retirement home to return to their former convent. Well, it's hard to break old habits. What'd you think was gonna happen? You two over there that were like, oh, I like that one. If you're angry, there's 2 guys sitting over there at a desk that are kind of run this play. Yeah, he's raising his hands. I know it's a dad joke. My kids wouldn't get it. That's why I had to tell it to you. And finally, hundreds of people named Ryan gathered at a bar in New York over the weekend to attempt to break a Guinness World Record, beating out the previous record for a gathering of Ryans, a bar fight in Boston. And that was a monologue, everybody. Our show has begun. We've got a great one for you tonight. He's an Emmy-winning actor, writer, producer. You know him from Ted Lasso and Shrinking. He co-wrote and stars in the film All of You, which streams on Apple TV Plus next week. And Brett Goldstein is back on the show. We love Brett. And this next one's a big deal for us. He's an Oscar-nominated, Emmy Award-winning actor and director whose movies include Stand By Me, The Princess Bride. I usually roll with the punches. That was so loud. In our defense, we've only had that door for 10 years. He's an Oscar-nominated, Emmy Award-winning actor and director whose movies include Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, and A Few Good Men. Just amazing movies. His latest, Spinal Tap 2, The End Continues, is in theaters now. Rob Reiner is here, everybody. But before we get to that, so I read something recently that said Labubu prices are soaring because of high demand for a tiny little goblin toy. People are even making TikTok tutorials to teach you how to spot fake ones, which some people are calling Lafufus. Well, all this Labubu talk, got me to thinking. I'm getting older. And sometimes I look around and I don't even realize the world I'm living in anymore. Things are changing every day and not always for the better. So it's time to take a moment to talk about how things were just, a bit more simple back in my day. Back in my day, we weren't worried about counterfeit Labubus. Back in my day, if someone accused you of having fake Labubus, you'd say, hey, mister, my eyes are up here. Back in my day, UNC coach Bill Belichick wasn't getting his butt whooped by the TCU Horned Frogs. Back in my day, he was being called one. As in, hey, Who's that weird old horn frog standing next to that hot 20-year-old girl? Back in my day, people weren't mixing soda and milk because of some TikTok trend. No, sir. Back then, TikTok trends were simple. You just ate a Tide Pod, and you died. Here's a head scratcher. Lately, I've been seeing these restaurants on delivery apps that only exist online with no physical location you can actually visit. Now, back in my day, we didn't have made-up restaurants, Grubhubbies. Back in my day, if you wanted to eat food of mysterious origin, you had to go to Arby's. Last time I was at their drive-thru, I swear I saw them pulling slices of roast beef out of the Xerox machine. Back in my day, websites didn't make you take some inane panel, sorry. Wally, you'll admit that's weird, right?
I have no idea what it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be 9, but it's spelled with an I first.
Yeah.
Show it to the camera.
What camera? Where? Yeah.
Back in my day, Wally proofed the cue cards. Now it just shows you pictures of his boat. Back in my day, websites didn't make you take some 9-panel pop quiz on fire hydrants to prove you weren't a robot. Back in my day, a CAPTCHA was like a cool bouncer who didn't really care. He just asked you one question. Hey, brother, you're not a robot? And you'd say no. And that was enough. You could tell the internet your name, your birthday, your mother's maiden name, and boom, welcome to feralmilfs.biz. By the way, you'll never believe how hard it is to come up with a new fake porn website whose name isn't already registered. We tried 10 different versions of girthquake.whatever. They were all taken, just like God intended. Back in my day, people weren't copying celebrities' voices with AI. Ain't that right, Rusty?
Spoken.
Rusty, did you use artificial intelligence to make yourself sound like Jim Carrey from The Mask?
Somebody stop me.
I'm trying to do exactly that, Rusty, because what you're doing is unethical.
Alrighty then.
Well, thank you. I'm glad we found. Hey, that's Ace Ventura, bad dog. Oh, you're not a pet detective. You're barely a pet. Worst beat so far. Back in my day, McDonald's wasn't releasing a mystery-flavored milkshake hamburglers. Back in my day, if you wanted mystery food, you went back to Arby's. The mystery wasn't the flavor, it was whether or not you would make it home before your pants. And some mysteries need to be solved more than once. Ain't nothing to be ashamed of. Happens to everybody, right, Rusty?
Alrighty then.
Yeah, I was also bummed we had a callback built in. That's my subtle cue to let the booth know if there's another Rusty, cut it. Back in my day, people didn't watch every TV show and movie with the subtitles on. Back in my day, if you wanted to catch every little word, you just got closer to the TV. You cranked up the volume to 100, and then you shouted at your children to shut the up! Dad's watching 4 weddings and a funeral, and it's harder than you think to understand all these accents. especially the Scottish guy. You know, we actually have one of those here, our very own Scottish guy, our photographer, Lloyd. Hey, Lloyd, say something for us.
Eh? Sorry, I didn't hear that. I was on the blower, my cousin Barry. You know, a foreman with 4 men too many. His belly cart fell down a whale well behind the dairy.
You know, come to think of it, maybe we do need subtitles for Lloyd.
Maybe you need to kiss my arse.
And we're happy to have you, Lloyd. We're happy to have you. Finally, back in my day, people weren't getting some annoying email receipt every time they bought a cup of coffee. No, sir. Back in my day, if you bought a cup of coffee, there wasn't a paper trail. You could just step out into the crisp morning air with that warm cup in your hand and just vanish into the world. You liked that freedom. And your coffee cup did too. He'd always say, "Isn't it great? Nobody knows where we are. We can do anything." And you'd laugh and you'd say, "You said it, coffee cup." He was always ready to give you that caffeine buzz and take you on adventures to quirky new places, remote places usually. You know, he said he liked the privacy. Then there was that weird phase where he started collecting things during our walks. Little trinkets, hair ties, jewelry. He would always insist we take different routes home, but then that missing flyer for Sarah Chen went up, and I recognized your earring. It was like the one on my kitchen counter. I mean, a lot of people wore that style, right? Oh, my God.
Hey, Seth. How you doing, man?
Hey, coffee cup. I'm good. I'm real good. I didn't know you were in town.
Oh, just checking in. Yeah, thinking about the old days.
Yeah. Cool. But like, what about the old days?
Well, I think you know what about the old days, and that's a problem for me.
Listen, I don't even remember the old days so well.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I had a car accident. My memory's all foggy now.
A car accident. Well, ain't that about a bee sting? Yeah, I'm really sorry to hear that, brother.
Yeah. Me too.
You gotta take care of your noggin. You only get one. Well, most people do.
Yeah. Totally.
Well, anyway, I gotta skedaddle. Places to be. You know how it is.
Yeah, I sure do. You know, well, so good chatting.
Oh, one last thing, Seth.
Uh-huh.
In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I'm sorry I had to do that, but sometimes this grumpy old Gus has got to get to griping. This has been Back in My Day. We'll be right back with Brett Goldstein, everybody.